The Detroit Tigers win a series in Minnesota. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, it's Monday, April 22nd, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Happy Monday to all of you. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend, and the Tigers may have actually contributed to your fantastic weekend, which is not something, no, we take that. We take it whenever we can get it, because it's not a weekendly occurrence here and hasn't been. But this was, there's some sloppy ball to go over. This was not exactly the most well-played weekend of baseball that any of us have ever seen, certainly. But I will gladly take A, just a series win in general, B, against a division rival, and C, against the Minnesota Twins. And obviously they're really banged up. They got a lot of injuries going on throughout that organization. Really unfortunate to see, to be honest. But anytime you can go in and take 2 of 3 at Target Field, I'm going to be a happy camper, because that's been pretty few and far between over the last several seasons. So 2 thumbs up there. A close weekend again until Sunday. The Twins didn't really put out much of a fight, but 5-4 and 3-4 were the final scores on Friday and Saturday, and then the 6-1 win on Sunday. Let's talk about what went right and what went wrong, as we always do. And because we had a series victory, we're going to start off with what went right. Casey Mize, certainly something that went right this weekend. 6 innings, 5 hits, 0 earned runs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. This was really a tale of, I guess, 2 halves, maybe is too specific or too, direct. It wasn't exactly half and half, first half, second half, but this was definitely a start where he looked different later in the outing than he did at the beginning of the outing. And when it's all said and done, he ended with 0 earned runs against. You're going to take that every single time you can, every chance you can. But the first 4 innings, he was really only throwing the slider and the fastball. The fastball is good now, which is great, because it wasn't great pre-Tommy John. It's much improved, but the slider really still hasn't shown much life, dog. Like it really hasn't. And that's 2 starts in a row now where he has got 0 whiffs, 0 on his slider total. It's getting some called strikes low and away to righties, but in general, that's a pitch where if it's figured out and somebody's sitting on it, it's only a matter of time. But it's kind of a ticking time bomb. Like, it's only a matter of time before that pitch really becomes relatively ineffective. So need to continue working on that. Maybe it's a sequencing thing, a pitch mix thing. Try a bunch of different stuff. And in this outing, to his credit, he did try a lot of different stuff. And that's why, again, this is obviously a very pro conversation. 6 innings, no runs given up. The last couple of innings is when he broke out the splitter. It was really interesting to me that he did not use it much at all in the first several innings, and then broke it out there at the end, kind of. And it was really effective. Huge advantage to throw a shutout, hardly using arguably your best pitch for the first 3 or 4 innings, the first time and a half through the lineup. And then the last time through the lineup, you break out the splitter, which you haven't shown too terribly much. And it's obviously a really effective pitch. Really good pitch mix late. Again, just need that slider to be better. I'm going to continue harping on it because it is true. I'm very firm in that belief that is something that we need to see improvement on. But the command, I think as a whole, kind of temporarily good and then temporarily poor kind of throughout the outing. You'd see 3 or 4 batters in a row, to his credit, where it was really good command and he was consistently hitting his spots. And then randomly there would be one where, Jake Rogers had to stand up to catch it. And it was kind of all over the place. So, we got in trouble early, worked out of it. That's obviously a good thing as well. This was a very solid outing. This was a really solid outing. And I think his best was saved for the end, which isn't necessarily a bad thing either. That's something that Verlander was so good at back in his heyday with the Tigers, right? Was, Verlander looked his best in the 6th through 8th inning. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but needs to work on how to navigate through the early parts still. And again, this is still his 4th start back from Tommy John, still very early, still April in his first season back in 2 years. So I think from where he's at right now, I'm pleased. Still, again, pointing out the things I want to see him improve on, but very pleased with where he's at. The fastball just continues to impress the ever-living heck out of me. Seeing it as good as it is something I don't know. Watching him pre-Tommy John, I never thought his fastball would look as good as it does right now. So fantastic stuff. 2 thumbs up there. Great day for Casey Mize. The bullpen all weekend absolutely is something that is something that went right. Alex Faedo, 1 earned run, and that was the only earned run the bullpen was responsible for the entire weekend. The only earned run against a reliever all weekend was that Alex Faedo one in the 9th inning on Sunday. Great stuff, right? That's fantastic. That continues to really drive home the confidence that this fan base, this organization, the team itself, everybody is having in this bullpen early on. Faedo started off weak and then, straightening it out and bearing down, I think is a great sign, right? Like allowed some base runners, got into some trouble, allowed the run, and then, hunkered down and really was nails in the last 3 batters he faced. So I think that's a great sign. He had 2 on, no out, 1 on, no out. Like for him to kind of turn it around like that, I think is fantastic stuff. Tyler Holton, masterclass, absolutely phenomenal. Alex Lang, really solid again. That's 2 outings in a row. Not trying to blow this out of proportion and be like, oh, he's back, like it's fixed. But that is 2 outings in a row. He's been in and around the zone, threw strikes when he needed to. That's really the biggest thing, right? Like it's one thing to consistently be inconsistent with your command and kind of be all over the place. But if you can just, in the counts where you need a strike to be able to really buckle down and do that, I think is really all we're asking for out of him. He's never going to be a super low walk guy, but if he can just throw strikes when he needs to, I think that's really, again, all we're kind of asking for. And he did that. So wasn't afraid to put the bat on the ball, wasn't afraid of contact this weekend as well. Great stuff. Joey Wentz has a sub-1 ERA, and I know he's given up some inherited runners as well. And so it's not to say that he's been a 0.96 or whatever his ERA is caliber necessarily. There's still a lot of fastball question marks I have. But I think that AJ Hinch is using him extremely intelligently. And I give him, again, sub-1 ERA early. It's still April. Same conversation we have with the good, with the bad. It's still very early, all things considered. But I think he's been a nice addition to this bullpen, able to stretch out, give you multiple innings from the left side. Going to take that when you can. And Andrew Chafin continues to be absolutely phenomenal, man. Like, I cannot stress enough how good Andrew Chafin has been his last 4 outings, 3 or 4 outings. It's phenomenal. He has been used in unbelievably high leverage, righty, lefty, doesn't matter, and has got the job done. I think he deserves all the flowers in the world. Let's talk about Jack Flaherty, another thing that went right this weekend. Certainly, Jack Flaherty falls under that. So we'll talk about that. And there's some few more things. Again, this is a series win. So the list of good is longer than the list of things that went poorly, which is always a good sign. We will get into all of that right after this. Going to talk to you today about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships and also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that huge win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Also going to talk to y'all about our friends over at Monopoly Go. Everyone is well aware that I have a competitive side, and that competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it because it's been downloaded by over 150 million times and people across the world. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities and bringing home that big money. The best part is messing with your friends, to be completely honest with you. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly, but now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And obviously the leaderboard shows me who the biggest Monopoly tycoons are. So it's not just my competitive side that loves it. It truly is just a really, really fun game, and I absolutely love playing it with all of my friends. So get in on the game and the action and join your friends today. Download Monopoly Go now for free in the App Store or Google Play. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow recapping game 1 against the Tampa Bay Rays. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports today. As always, the free 24/7 streaming YouTube channel giving you the best and biggest stories from the sports world. Again, YouTube or Amazon Fire TV channels app. So talking about what went right this weekend, like I said before the break, Jack Flaherty certainly falls under that category in my opinion. 6 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, only 2 of them earned, 1 walk and 10 strikeouts. The final line would look even better if the defense helped him out literally at all. And we'll talk about the defense here in a second. But his slider and curveball looked fantastic. I cannot say enough good things about how his breaking pitches have looked so far in a Tigers uniform, period. This was 10 strikeouts, almost 20 whiffs, 19 swings and misses, a 39% CSW percentage. For those who don't remember, that's called strikes plus whiffs percentage. That means almost 40% of every pitch he threw was either was a strike in some capacity, sans foul balls. That is a phenomenal number. That is a really, really solid number to be at. The fastball is still a little inconsistent to me. I think in all aspects, velocity and command. He missed a few fastballs in some big counts in that outing specifically, in some really big counts, to be honest. But as a whole, this is obviously a fantastic and encouraging start. The secondary stuff, again, has just looked so great since joining the team. So this is really like same story, different day type of stuff. Like I just want to keep an eye on the fastball, see what it looks like throughout the year. Because again, it is still so early. We are still in April, only 3 weeks into the season, a little over 3 weeks in. So a little bit more to be desired with the heater, but all in all, just a great day at the office. And like I said, encouraging is really the word I would use, just because he was sequencing and commanding the slider specifically, but that and the curve just so unbelievably well. I'm pumped. I'm pumped for his next start to see if he can potentially build off that. But again, it's going to come down to the effectiveness of his fastball. Command, honestly, maybe more than velocity at this point, but both of them a little inconsistent at times. Sunday as a whole, I think, is something that I think went well. That's a 6-1 victory. The offense came through. They still should have scored more in the first few innings. I Don't want that to be lost. We'll talk about that later in the show when we get to what went wrong this weekend. But 6 runs of offense, your big bats, your important bats, I'll say for lack of a better term, looked really good. And the starting and bullpen depth was great. So really effective stuff all around on Sunday. That was one of the easier games of the year, which I will gladly welcome given how many one-run games we've had. Kerry Carpenter, unbelievable weekend. Unbelievable. The biggest attribute I think that came out of the weekend from him was phenomenal timely hitting, right? Like I know some were kind of cheapy, soft hits, or, there was a half swing that found grass the other way. I don't care currently. Like I really don't. And that's somewhat off brand, I guess, but anyone who does literally anything with a runner in scoring position is going to get praise on this show for the foreseeable future because of how poorly the team as a whole has been in that department, right, so far this season. So but Kerry Carpenter specifically was just all over everything this weekend. Had a 4-hit game on Friday. Awesome stuff. Looks like he's seeing the ball really well. The thing that kind of scared me early was he was swinging at a lot of high fastballs, like eye-level fastballs. And by Sunday, he was taking those. And that's the thing that I have given Kerry Carpenter the most credit for since becoming a major leaguer is his constant ability to adjust. And that's not to say he won't, never swing at a high fastball ever again. But like that, everything that we have ever pointed to and been like, he needs to fix that. Within a few months, it feels like it is. And he just deserves so much credit. He is such a valuable part to this team. Got an OPS over 900, been clearly the best hitter on this roster so far this season. Absolutely phenomenal weekend. Wenceel Perez and Buddy Kennedy. Things that went right this weekend. Those two gentlemen, absolutely something that went right. Look, Wenceel Perez, I guess this is more offensively, had some troubles defensively. We'll talk about those later, obviously. But the awesome moment there are few moments in sports quite like somebody coming through to win a ball game after the opposing team intentionally walks the hitter before them. That is something that's so unique to baseball, right? Like I guess, defensively on basketball, you could, like quadruple team one player and just be like, oh, pass, and like force somebody else to win. Like there are similar, but the one-on-one-ness of baseball, pitcher, batter, and just the absolute, just the bird that the other team is really feels like it's giving you, like how personally hitters take it when the person in front of them is intentionally walked, to come through in that moment has to just be unbelievable at the big league level. So, and look, he went 3 for 5 in what was that, the same game? Yeah. 2 RBIs that day as well. Absolutely great stuff. Buddy Kennedy looked phenomenal. Like I was like questioning my eyes. Like that is how good he looked. It looked like he was seeing a beach ball up there. Like he knew exactly. I don't think he made a poor swing decision once in his entire game on Sunday. Like every at bat was worked. He swung at every borderline pitch. I guess he did strike out looking the one time, and that was kind of a borderline pitch. But it felt like outside of that, every single shadow, the fringe pitches he was making contact with and fouling off or hitting for home runs. He was just spit on every single ball out of the zone, like unbelievably impressive. I was blown away. And obviously, he's not going to have a 4,000 OPS the entire year. But if we can just get a solid at bat in this lineup while Gio Urshela is hurt, I think most of us will gladly take it. So, and look, like as a whole, everyone hates when I bring it up because they didn't address the top end talent in the Scott Harris era. And that is true. I agree. I had issues with that too. I agree with you. I wanted more top end talent. It gets lost in translation, but like I agree with that. But the depth has improved tremendously, to be honest, over the last couple of years. Not that we have an entire 40-man full of stars or anything, but no one really does, except maybe one or two teams. Like it's just the depth is a far cry from where it was just 2 or 3 years ago. And I think we're seeing kind of the fruits of that labor, which is nice. So, and the thing about Kennedy and Perez is like they have wheels too. Like those are fast base runners, really fast. And so we saw it from Perez. He had two triples, at least one this weekend. But Buddy Kennedy can turn on the Jets too. So some exciting players hopefully can continue to contribute offensively as well. So, because this offense needs it still, right? This is not all sunshine and rainbows on the offensive side of things. We'll talk about that in segment 3. Got a couple more things that went right as well. So we'll talk about those too right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA, and baseball season is in full swing as well. Playoff time in the NHL, Stanley Cup playoffs. Very few things on this planet better. And right now, new customers on FanDuel can get in on the action by getting $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, everybody, welcome back. Your third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all so much for tuning in as always. So one more thing I want to talk about, one more player here. I think just one, Spencer Torkelson. I think as the weekend went along, well, Friday was good, Saturday, Sunday, pretty solid again. I was debating between putting him in stuff versus things that went right. I landed on things that went right. At the end of the day, the numbers throughout the weekend were really solid. Still some timing issues to iron out. There's still some mechanical stuff that I think he's slowly and I don't know, they're small adjustments gradually over, game to game here. But, look, he was on time for some fastballs this weekend. He pulled the ball a lot more this weekend, which is a great sign. We talked about that a lot over the winter. And you're seeing it. Like he pulled the baseball this weekend and had some pretty good results. The Bally was covering some of the adjustments that he made really well, talking about how, he's looking pretty solid. And that's probably a reason why. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come. What I would really be frustrated at is we go to Tampa and he just looks how he has, how he did, the first 2 weeks of the season. So hopefully this is some momentum, like adjustments have been made and hopefully it's only up from here because those numbers are slowly getting better. And this weekend is a big reason why. He had a really, really solid weekend at the plate, some RBIs, some clutch hitting, some not clutch hitting as well. But, as a whole this weekend, I was pretty impressed with how he looked. Still waiting on that first homer, but drove the ball pretty well, was hitting the ball really hard on Sunday all around. So let's talk about things that went wrong. Still some RISP stuff that I could easily complain about if I really wanted to. I'm in a pretty good mood. So I guess we'll kind of hold off. But they went 2 for 12 on Sunday in RISP and had a pitcher that could not throw a strike and did not take advantage nearly as much as I thought they should have. The thing that I will complain about, their performance against Bailey Ober was horrific. I mean, that was absolutely brutal. Those were legitimately some of the most uncompetitive at-bats I've seen from this team in some time. And that's really saying something considering how poorly the offense started off the year. Just zero ability to work the count, to make hard contact. There was a solid, I want to say 2 innings where he threw 9 pitches or 12 pitches total in 2 innings. I mean, legitimately horrible. And so I will complain about that because it cost you a game in which you still only lost by a run. You had a chance to sweep this weekend. And the just length of the amount of uncompetitive at-bats against Ober were probably the difference in that ball game. So just dreadful stuff there. But again, they bounced back on Sunday. So it's hard to do, weekend recaps when Saturday was the worst that you looked because Sunday you looked really good. And so recency bias, they recovered clearly, which is something that we obviously look for when you have a bad performance. Parker Meadows, I actually thought at the end of last week he was turning a corner to an extent, not that he looked fantastic, but I thought he had some decent at-bats, was hitting the ball a little bit harder. And then Sunday, right back to it. 0 for 4 with 3 Ks, just looked kind of lost again. I don't know how much longer he's going to be on the major league roster. I still believe in the long-term product and the profile and the player, as far as like career outlook goes. But just setting him down for a couple of weeks, let him just see himself hit the ball hard for even if it's just like a week or two, and then call him back, I think is probably something that as we get closer to May 1st, when people kind of do the first month sample size, those conversations might get hotter unless he can turn it around here in the last week and a half of the month of April. Jake Rogers quietly has been the worst hitter on the team. And I say quietly because a lot of people are talking about Torque and about Parker Meadows and whatnot. And Rogers has not been playing every day, right? Carson Kelly's been getting a lot of playing time, but he has done next to nothing at the plate outside of that home run against the White Sox, which was the opening weekend. He provides a lot of great stuff behind the plate too. So like, this is not like he's not going anywhere anytime soon, but he needs to figure it out as well. They're not going to keep he's at like a 297 OPS. They're certainly not going to keep that on the roster all year. So needs to figure it out, needs to make adjustments very, very badly. But at least he is providing some really good. He actually had quite a few pass balls over the last few weeks, which I don't like at all. But outside of that, provides a lot of good behind the plate too. Zach McKinstry. Look, we've talked about Zach McKinstry's weaknesses at length last year over the winter. The dude swings at every breaking ball in the dirt, and every team knows it at this point. The injury situation that this organization is in means that the change, I don't think Zach McKinstry's going anywhere tomorrow necessarily. I might be wrong, but I think that because we'll get to it in a second, because you have some injuries, he's probably here. But the more time that goes by, the more I am convinced that Zach McKinstry is probably not going to make it through this entire season on this major league roster. Just because unless he adjusts and finally starts laying off those breaking balls that bounce on home plate, but he didn't on, this weekend, he didn't a year ago. Like until proven otherwise, I'm not gonna assume that change is gonna happen. So that's another thing, especially with how often Javi has been getting sat a lot more often this year. You're going to need some production out of McKinstry, especially being a lefty. You want him kind of as that, off the bench late type of hitter. If he's not doing anything, it doesn't matter that he, is a lefty if he can't hit righties. So something to keep an eye out for sure. The Gio Urshela injury, obviously something that went wrong this weekend. He has been a ball and play machine this year and was really solid defensively, sans the swing and miss tag. It just sucks. Like the hamstring, hopefully that's a relatively quick recovery, but I don't know. They've been really vague about it. It could be one stint on the 10-day. It could be a month and a half. I really have no clue. What sucks more is that Kreidler and, for the Tigers Twitter crowd out there, Eddie's Leonard, are both hurt in AAA right now as well. So, I know that there's always going to be a conversation about Justin Henry Malloy. Justin Henry Malloy is not going to play infield for this team. He's not going to play third. He's not going to play infield. And Buddy Kennedy gives them a little bit of flexibility and can play kind of all over the infield. So he was the answer, and him to the rescue. We talked about him earlier, obviously something that went really right, was great this weekend. But once Kreidler and co, will say, get healthy, I think we could see some more aggressiveness in decision-making. Also, it's still April 22nd, right? Like we're still only 3.5, not even weeks into the season. Just as we get further into the year and hopefully the minor league roster gets a little more healthy, we could see some more aggressiveness in some roster decisions on some players that are underperforming so far. Defense. My goodness. And again, this is one of those things where like recency is good because Sunday they actually played a really sound defensive game for the first time in like what feels like ages. But like Kerry Carpenter absolutely hosed Jack Flaherty. Spencer Torkelson brutal weekend defensively, was DHing on Sunday. Javi, ball under his glove, made up for it immediately after and got a double play on a great diving play in a ball flip. So good for him. Maybe we can, remove him, but like made a tough play. Wenceel Perez, brutal. Oh my goodness, brutal play. And made up for it, hit the walk-off, not walk-off, game winner, but like brutal play that almost lost us that game. I'm glad they looked decent Sunday, or else I'd be a lot more upset about it. But that is, they had a great start to the year defensively. And then for almost a week, like legitimately almost a week, we're horrible, like concerningly terrible, which is a large enough sample size this early in the season when everything's kind of a small sample size. Like, which one is legitimate? Which one is real? And that's kind of the scary, I guess is the word, part of this conversation is the last week the real defense, or is the first 2 weeks the real defense? For our sake, I hope it's the first 2 weeks. Some other stuff from the weekend, then I'll let you get on with your Monday. Javi was very noteworthy this weekend. Made some fantastic plays defensively. We already talked about it. He walked again. Unbelievable stuff. Was wreaking havoc on the base paths. A lot of steals. Still second and third in one half inning on Sunday. Was on time for some fastballs this weekend as well. Not in the lineup on Friday, which I think is noteworthy too, right? Like, it just seems like there's already a lot more willingness to not start him every single day this year. Like, there's a lot less patience with it, which I think is probably a good sign for the organization. Like, he wasn't awesome. Like, he wasn't fantastic at the plate, and the offense still obviously has a long way to go, but he affected the game in a lot of areas. Had that great heads-up play that everyone has covered to the moon and back, so we don't need to go too much into it, but the Willie Castro play, right? This was a solid weekend for him, and I'm hoping that if we can just get a little bit more out of the tank offensively. Like, this is a guy who can be valuable, and that's the frustrating part about him is you see flashes, and in the next 2 weeks, he'll be terrible and unplayable again, and we'll be right back to where we were. So we'll see. Reese Olson, 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 2 of them earned, 2 walks, 4 Ks. His sinker got crushed in some big counts. Again, not too much analysis here, right? Like, we've talked about it at length on this show. The defense did not do him any favors as well, similar to Flaherty. The command was kind of There was some good moments, some bad moments. The slider and changeup are still beautiful. Same story, different day. All about fastball and sinker effectiveness for him. We'll continue to keep an eye on it. And again, defense, please help out your pitchers. That's 2 starts in a row for him that he hasn't got any. And that's the weekend. We play the Rays now. Play the Rays in Tampa at 6:50 on Monday. As you're listening to this, Tarek Skubal against Zach Little. He was a reliever, Little, and had his good stuff. Really good slider. Throws it a ton. Good start to the year as well, and not just like an opener. Like, goes 5-6 innings already has this season in a couple of starts. So. Yeah, I mean, this is just like a typical Rays story, like a swing man, kind of like reliever that was fine. And then like now he has a 2.14 ERA and 22 strikeouts in 4 starts on the season. This is still like you win. Like, this is Tarek Skubal. This is your ace. Win this ball game. That's really all I have to say about the Rays. We'll kind of do more of an in-depth kind of like looking at the last 2 games of the series tomorrow, but we'll save that for then, since we have 3 games to talk about today. Tyler Alexander, though, we will see. He is starting on Wednesday. Todd the Painter, the dog. How can you not love Tyler Alexander? I think that's pretty much it. Solid weekend for the boys. Still some stuff left on the table offensively. Still want to see a lot of improvement there. But I mean, we're just in this, like talking about the good and bad, like we talked about a lot more good offensively than we have all season up to this point. So starting to see some players turn a corner, hopefully, right? That's a hopeful statement, not like a guaranteed that's what's happening type of statement. But look, I'm not going to be upset. Like, we took 2 of 3 and had a chance to sweep, to be honest. So 12-10. The Tigers currently find themselves at. on April 22nd. And I think if you would have asked most of us if we would have taken 12-10 on Monday, April 22nd, most of us would have taken that and ran. So here we are. And the best thing about being 12-10 is you got an opportunity to be 13-10. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every day. Appreciate you all greatly for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.